The man who dressed up as a woman and wore wigs in an attempt to evade arrest has been jailed for stabbing a 27-year-old man to death outside a barber shop. Momodou Faal, 28, stabbed Jobari Gooden a number of times in broad daylight in Peckham before booking a flight to the Gambia to try and avoid being caught. Despite wearing wigs and cutting off his dreadlocks, he was arrested at an address in Gillingham and charged with Jobari's murder. He was later convicted of manslaughter following a trial at Southwark Crown Court and was jailed on Thursday, October 27, for 7 years, with an additional 5 years on license. Jurors heard that emergency services were called at 3:15 p.m. on December 27 to reports of a fight outside a barber's on Chalmers Road. Officers found Jobari with stab injuries and he was rushed by the London Ambulance Service to hospital in a critical condition. Despite their best efforts, he was pronounced dead at 6:08 p.m. Detectives from Specialist Crime Homicide started an investigation and found that Faal and Jobari had originally passed each other at 2:48 p.m. at the junction with Rye Lane and Hanover Park. After the victim and his girlfriend visited McDonald's for a few minutes, they encountered Faal again and a fight ensued. After being stabbed, Jobari was chased towards Rye Lane before he eventually collapsed. At this point Faal stopped his pursuit and escaped on a bicycle that had been given to him by an acquaintance. He disposed of the knife and over the following days moved to a number of different addresses and used a burner phone to avoid detection. He also succeeded in obtaining an emergency Gambian passport under the name Omar Barrow and booked a one-way flight from Manchester Airport to the Gambia. Detectives later discovered during the course of their investigation that Faal had been using various disguises to move around, which included dressing up as a woman and wearing wigs. When arrested on December 23, he claimed that his name was Omar Barrow and gave a false date of birth before answering no comment to all questions during his interview. An Old Bailey court heard that Faal had been entrenched in a lifestyle of violence and drug dealing for over 10 years and that he had previously been stabbed multiple times in the head. It was accepted however by Judge Peter Rook KC that he had not brought a knife to the scene and that his actions were not premeditated. Sentencing him to 7 years with an additional 5 years on license, he said. During the afternoon of December 17 last year, at a market in Peckham, you stabbed Jobari Gooden twice in the abdomen with a knife that had a long blade. During those few seconds, you deprived him of his most precious possession, life itself. Your actions had a devastating impact upon his family. I heard his mother last Friday, she told us her life had been empty without her son. In her words, the day he died, she died. She described her son as a young man with a bright future, working and going to university. Her life will never be the same after her son's death. He noted that while the jury had rejected his claim that the stabbings were accidental and in reasonable self-defense, he had been acquitted of bringing a knife to the scene. Detective Chief Inspector Brian Howie Sr. Investigating Officer, said. Faal claimed to have been acting in self-defense, but was plainly the aggressor. He repeatedly stabbed Jobari in a frenzied attack in full view of horrified members of the public who were shopping in the local market. Faal told the court that he was a drug dealer and he falsely claimed there had been a long history of incidents between the pair, but there was no justification for the disgusting violence that occurred that day. This was senseless loss of a young man's life which has torn his family apart. Jobari's mom and friends attended every court appearance and were there throughout the trial. Jobari's mom will never get over the murder of her son, the plans they made together for their future will never now be realized. I want to pay tribute to her for the strength and resolve she has shown throughout what has been a truly harrowing trial. Our thoughts are with her today. My officers worked diligently to find and arrest Faal, who was doing all he could to elude detectives. Despite all his efforts we were able to find him and put together a compelling case. I am glad the jury have been able to see through this web of lies and we have brought Jobari some justice. Jobari's mother Shauna Manboard said. My son, Jobari, was taken from me in the most brutal way. His life was taken in a place that he thought he was safe. We have still been given no reason as to why his life was totally destroyed and taken so senselessly. This nightmare has not ended. This has been incredibly painful, listening to the defendant blame my son for his own death. He has continued to show a blatant disrespect to his memory and our family. The damage that has been done has not only been to Jobari. Mine and our family's lives will never be the same again. The day he died I died too and without him my life will be empty. Rest in peace Jobari Gooden, condolences to the family and loved ones.